How about now? No? All right. How about now? Do I have a microphone? Wow. All righty. Well, in that case, I hope you've had a fantastic time meeting each other. Good morning, and let me then formally say, amplified now, welcome to the World Circular Economy Forum 2024 here in Brussels. How's everybody doing this morning? I just want to say we have already moved closer to our goals for energy conservation by having my microphone off for 90 seconds. Well done, us. Another round of applause for those amazing acrobatic crew, Soif Total. And also for Luca Locatelli for the stunning circular economy photographs that were up in the background. My name is Pep Rosenfeld, and I am one of the founders of the Boom Chicago Comedy Theater in Amsterdam. And just so I know, let me know with your cheers and applause if you've ever seen someone from Boom Chicago before. Now, it's good to see you again. That guy owes me money. Now go crazy if you're hearing about Boom Chicago for the first time in your life. Yeah, that's fair. Look, that's fair. And this is working now too. He just gave me this signal, and here's what the signal looked like. It's fair though. If I'm honest, until a couple of weeks ago, I had never heard of the WCEF either. I heard WCEF. I thought it was like a cool new thing that teenagers say on their phones, like it was a more complicated WTF. You know, like kids would be like, "You're still eating beef? WCEF, bro." But look, whether you're a newbie like me or whether you are, as I assume most of you are, experts on the topic, there is something for everybody. The WCEF 2024 program is going to be guided by the latest scientific evidence on the most impactful circular solutions. Together, we're going to explore how to turn them from theory into action. You'll find that the next 2 days will be facilitating targeted discussions around governance, finance, people and employment, and business and innovation, key enablers that drive the implementation of circular solutions, not just in theory, but in reality on the ground. Over these 2 days, you can take in 4 plenaries. Spoiler alert, you're already taking in one just by being here. And you can choose from 16 parallel sessions with complementing workshops. Now, if you want to get the most out of this event, I urge you to download the event app. Many of you perhaps already have in the countless emails and QR codes and URLs, but if you haven't, now's the time. That's really the way to get the most out of the forum program and the networking. And if you're having trouble downloading the app or you just don't understand how to do it, this might not be the event for you. Now I want to check in before we start and see where we all are. I'm going to ask a question, but don't respond yet. The question is, who of you believe in a future where well-being soars without accelerating material consumption? That's the question. If you believe in a future where well-being soars without accelerating material consumption. Raise your hand like the nerdy kid in school if your answer is absolutely. Nerdy kid in school. Be honest. Okay, now hold your hand up like the kid who doesn't really know the answer if you're not sure. Careful. And if you have a bad feeling and you don't agree with that statement, then assume the brace position like you're on a Boeing 737 and the door just flew off. Brace positions, anybody? Nobody? That's good. It was a trick question. None of us here would ever take a plane. It's terrible for the environment. Circular heroes like us only take trains and nuclear-powered submarines. That's how I got here. Well, folks, we're going to dive in. The science is clear. Material overconsumption is driving the planetary crisis. We do our best by turning off my microphone, but it's not yet enough. At the same time, many people don't even meet basic well-being thresholds. So I guess the question is, how can we build a future where well-being soars, but without accelerating material consumption and its impacts? Now, science has shown us key strategies and solutions that take us out of this state and move toward a circular future for us all. Today we'll hear from IRP's Global Resource Outlook, the Circular Economy Foundation's Circularity Gap Report to understand the current state of the world and be inspired by solutions. The science will lay the groundwork for a critical discussion with global leadership to help us shape a vision for the future role of governance, economics, and society in building a just, circular future. So I'd first like to welcome Janez Potočnik, co-chair of the International Resources Panel. Among other roles, Janez is partner at Systemic, chair of the Forum for the Future of Agriculture, and advisor to thought-leading institutions such as the European Forest Institute. And before that, he was European Commissioner for Science and Research until 2010 and Commissioner for the Environment between 2010 and 2014. Folks, let's start this off with Janez Potočnik.
Thank you, Pep. It's actually very good not to be on the stage first. Hi, everybody. Turning circular visions into actions, indeed. But we still have some work to do to make circular economy better understood and accepted globally. I was present in February at UNEA 6 in Nairobi, and one of the main disappointments was that countries were not able to agree about circular economy resolution. But UNEA 6 was a success for International Resource Panel. We have launched there our main report, Global Resource Outlook 2024, a groundbreaking scientific document, a true guide to a sustainable and just world. Our research is showing that the unsustainable resource use is driving the triple planetary crisis. Extraction and processing of materials, everything we extract from the earth, are driving 60% climate impacts if we include also land use change, over 90% of land-related biodiversity loss and water stress, and around 40% of health-related pollution impacts. All, unfortunately, see an increasing trend since our last global assessment in 2019. In total, global materials use has increased by over a factor of 3 in last 50 years. If the current trends would continue, it is projected to grow from current 100 billion tons to 160 by 2060. The wealthiest benefit most from resource use and are also responsible for most environmental impacts. High-income countries use 6 times more materials per capita and are responsible for 10 times more per capita climate impacts than low-income countries. Meanwhile, low-income countries still do not consume enough material to meet basic human needs. There are huge differences existing among different income groups in material footprint, which includes domestic extraction and net material balance. Good news is that we can already see absolute decoupling in high-income countries happening. IRP scientific attention is focusing on unpacking the drivers and pressures leading to the consequences we face. Our research is showing that we need a fundamental systemic shift in how we use resources, away from wasteful linear production and consumption systems towards circular, resource-efficient societies optimizing well-being for all. Decoupling of economic and well-being growth from resource use and environmental impacts, it's a must. Circular economy is an efficient instrument for delivering decoupling in practice. It is the oldest concept on the planet Earth. All nature is based on the principles of a circular economy. We humans, as part of nature, should abide by the same principles. What seems logical in theory isn't so clear in practice. What is the major novelty of GROW24? We are simply setting the order right. Economy was invented to serve humans and not the opposite. So we are looking at how to optimize provisioning systems, human needs, rather than maximizing the output of individual sectors. We acknowledge the usefulness of GDP, but we should be guided by well-being. Looking at country income groups is allowing us to understand the development patterns and their needs. They differ a lot, and that fact must be considered. We propose to focus on most resource-intensive provisioning systems, built environment, mobility, food and energy, which represent 90% of global material demand. Focusing on human needs would incentivize cross-sector innovation and shifts to more future-fit business models. Their environmental impacts, climate and biodiversity, are critical and are unfortunately growing. Our report in a sustainability transition scenario shows pathway how to improve environmental outcomes, raise equality, and maintain economic benefits. Any transformation is a major business opportunity for those who are innovative and understand the essence of the challenges ahead of us. We should not accept that meeting human needs should be resource-intensive and stop stimulating extraction-based economic success. Supply-side policies, receiving most of the policy attention, should be complemented with demand-side policies, including resource efficiency optic. Main question, often overlooked, is how to meet human needs in the most resource and energy efficient way. There are 5 main recommendations proposed by GROW24. Institutionalize resource governance and define resource use path. Direct finance towards sustainable resource use. Make trade an engine of sustainable resource use. Mainstream sustainable consumption options. And create circular, resource efficient and low impact solutions and business models. Dear friends, why are the messages shared by IRP in this forum so important? Last decades, attention by policymakers was mainly given to the climate change, with good reasons, but limited success. Some facts. Global CO2 emissions last year were higher than ever. Global surface temperature already increased to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. The upper limit set not to be crossed. Surprisingly, I do not hear many panicking. Most worrying, fossil fuel subsidies topped $7 trillion, 7.1% of GDP in 2022. Highest yearly figure ever. So get ready, it will get worse. High costs associated with climate change are here, and many are showing a great level of solidarity with those hit by the extreme weather events. But why we are ready to show this solidarity only ex post, already facing consequences and not ex ante to avoid them? According to science, we are crossing 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries, which is obviously pushing us out of the safe operating space in which our societies have evolved. In the scientific work published recently, authors of the behavioral crisis driving ecological overshoot claim that climate breakdown is a symptom of ecological overshoot, which in turn is caused by the deliberate exploitation of human behavior. The material footprint is dangerously under-discussed, where discussion of climate often centers on carbon emissions. A focus on overshoot highlights the materials usage, waste output and growth of human society, all of which affect the Earth biosphere. In short, the main problem in our growing societies, often overlooked, are our consumption and production patterns, designed by the industrialized world, which are wasteful and unjust. If we do not change them, we will face increasingly severe environmental impacts while not having even basic human needs met. Climate change could only be effectively addressed by combining currently prevailing supply-side solutions linked to energy decarbonization with demand-side solutions related to behavioral change, including decoupling, and nature-based solutions exploiting the potential of ecosystem services and environmental sinks. IRP modeling is showing that with systemic shifts, we can, by 2060, compared to today's levels, mitigate growth in material use by 30% and reduce total global energy demand by 25%, all consistent with global decarbonization goals. Decarbonization and decoupling, based on circularity principles in practice, must go hand in hand. This would also make energy transition easier and feasible. Finally, dear friends, since we are in Brussels and in important multiple elections year, the question, either or not to continue with the policy designed by European Green Deal, it's a wrong question to ask. We should rather consider where it needs to be strengthened and deepened, and what is needed to make it better implementable. Equality and poverty alleviation are key if we want people to be concerned about regenerative economics and decarbonization. Social and environmental efforts must go hand in hand. We need a systemic shift in how we use resources. European and global geopolitical reality is changing. Increasing number of emerging conflicts and security threats should be understood also in a resource-related perspective. We need a competitive and forward-looking Europe, keeping the bold vision designed by the European Green Deal. But we also need global community on board, turning circular visions into actions. Existing and emerging challenges can only be addressed through more cooperation by sharing sovereignty on European as well as on global level. The strong alignment in messages coming from all scientific panels must be considered as a statement of urgency from the scientific community. We should aim for a meaningful and decent life for all within planetary boundaries. We should embrace the words and wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi. The world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed, and use them as an inspiration for our work and our actions. With decisive action and political courage, a sustainable future for all is still possible, but solutions pathway is getting narrower and steeper, and there are less and more urgent options on our policy menu than decades ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indebting future generations, financially and also by depleting nature. We know this is wrong. Apparently, humans are the most intelligent species on the planet. It's high time to prove it. More than an economic or a technological choice, this is a moral choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Some jarring data and an ambitious vision for the future. And ambitious visions is indeed what we're going to move on and discuss in depth as we make use of these panel discussion seats. We're moving on to a discussion moderated by Ivonne Bojoh, CEO of Circle Economy Foundation. After 25 years at startups and scale-ups in Europe and Southeast Asia, Ivonne chose to apply her knowledge and experience to resolving global, environmental, and societal issues. In 2020, she fell in love with the circular economy and joined the Circular Economy Foundation, where her team works hard to bring theory into action. Her goal is to transform 10,000 companies, 1,000 cities, and 100 nations. She asks, what is your goal? I welcome to the stage, Ivonne. And as I welcome you, let me also introduce the panel members that are coming up. Vivianne Heijnen, Minister of Environment in the Netherlands. Al-Hamndou Dorsouma, the Division Manager for Climate Change and Green Growth, African Development Bank. And Ambroise Fayolle, Vice President, European Investment Bank. Will all be coming up and joining this panel. Ivonne, the stage is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Is my mic on? Yes. Okay, all right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is with a sense of urgency and purpose that we are here today at World Circular Economy Forum 2024 in Brussels. The theme of this year's forum, Accelerating the Circular Economy Transition, resonates deeply with the findings of the Global Resources Report. The latest insights from the GRO report provide a stark reminder of the civilization challenges that we are facing. Resource consumption is the main driver of the triple planetary crisis. Consumption has tripled compared to 50 years ago, and projections are that 60% of the growth in consumption by 2050. These statistics are a powerful reminder of the urgent need for acceleration. While we are all aware of the unsustainable nature of our current resources consumption and production patterns, it is time to move beyond awareness and into accelerated action. Our audience today, both in the room and online, comprised of individuals who understand the urgency and are fervent believers in the circular economy principles. However, we must now transition from passive believers into active change makers. The time for incremental progress has passed. What we need now is radical collaboration across borders and sectors. We have ample insights, good reports and analyses, but without collective action, they remain mere good intentions on paper. It is time to shift gears, to move faster and with focus, and to unite as a global community committed to driving the transition to a circular economy. In our Circularity Gap Report 2024, Circular Economy took a bold move to shift from exploring the what to focusing on the how. This shift represents a fundamental change in our approach as we move beyond identifying the challenges to actively seeking solutions and pathways to implementation. I encourage you to read the full report. Our report identifies a number of exciting enablers that speak to different countries and different sectors. We want to change the rules of the game for good. We believe this is possible by achieving three things. One, create a level policy playing field. Set the rules of the game through policies and legal frameworks that incentivize sustainable and circular practices while penalizing harmful ones, thereby shaping the nature and scale of economic activities across industries and nations. Two, getting the economics right. Adjust fiscal policies and leverage public investments to create true prices and ensure that circular solutions become more valuable investments and begin to replace linear norms. And three, building circular expertise and skills. Ensure people are equipped with the necessary skills and training for a just transition, where opportunities and decent livelihoods are distributed equitably across societies. While we witness policymakers, industry leaders, and financial institutions transition at their pace, many of us tend to externalize the economy. However, we are the economy. The money we earn, the money we spend makes us the economy. Meaningful change starts with individual choices. During this forum, we will all learn about systemic initiatives and macro-level insights. Combining those with our individual choices will bring about the much-needed transition at an accelerated rate. It has been an honor to co-produce this year's WCEF together with Sitra and the International Resource Panel. I wish you all an inspiring, insightful, and actionable forum. Thank you. Now, as we transition to our panel discussion, I'm eager to introduce our esteemed panelists who bring a wealth of expertise and insights to the table. First, we have Minister Vivianne Heijnen, whose dedication to creating a more livable and accessible Netherlands is truly inspiring. With her background in regional policy and social innovation, she brings a unique perspective to our discussion on sustainable resource management. Second, we have Dr. Al-Hamndou Dorsouma, Manager of Climate and Green Growth Division at the African Development Bank. Dr. Dorsouma's expertise in climate resilience and green growth, particularly in the African context, will offer valuable insights into the intersection of circular economy strategies and climate action. And third panelist, Mr. Ambroise Fayolle, Vice President of the European Investment Bank. With his extensive experience in climate action, development policy, and international finance, Vice President Fayolle brings a global perspective to our discussion on mobilizing financial resources to accelerate the adoption of circular solutions. Together, our panelists represent a diverse array of backgrounds and expertise, united by a common goal, to drive meaningful change towards the circular economy. I'm eager to hear their perspectives and engage in a thought-provoking dialogue on how we can collectively move from vision to action. Please join me in welcoming Minister Heijnen, Dr. Dorsouma, and Vice President Fayolle. Hi, welcome.
Where do you want me to sit here?
Next to me, that's fine. Dr. Dorsouma, in the third seat, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. As a warming up, I have a first question, which is more generic for policymakers, so please feel free to answer them. How can we ensure that countries are working together synergistically toward the goal of a circular economy? And what can different countries learn from each other?
Well, maybe if I may kick off, of course, being here all together is a very important thing to do. This forum can really help us a great deal. The reason why I'm saying that is because we cannot become a circular economy in isolation. We really will have to be able to work together. I believe that governments share a common task to take the recommendations of the report of Mr. Potočnik forward and translate them into collective action nationally and internationally, and to forge coalitions of the willing. As the Netherlands, we really try to be a front runner in the field of circular economy. But it means that we also have to share our ideas, expertise and knowledge with other countries, and also learn from them again. So that is one thing. And then when talking about international cooperation, you can't leave the discussion on just transition untouched. I think that's a very important point. So we have to create synergies. It also requires regulatory cooperation across borders, and we should take into account the global value chain of products, as well as the impacts of trade in both primary and secondary resources on countries' socio-economic development potential. So I think that circular economy can also really create more value in the global south, for example. So I'm really happy that we're here in a panel all together.
Wonderful, thank you. From a financial perspective, how is the circular economy gaining traction in the financial sector? And where do banks see the greatest opportunity to do more in bridging theory to practice?
Thank you very much. Before I address your question, let me first say that there is a strong rationale for circular economy globally, but particularly in a continent like Africa. And there is also a very strong case, a business case for it. Because circular economy currently represents an important market investment of about 8 billion per year in Africa. Some countries are already seeing that it adds value to their GDP. It creates additional green and decent jobs. And in countries like DRC, you know the importance of minerals. Some minerals are going to play a critical role in the future of renewable energy technology. So the case is there. Now, we see that it is already getting traction. In a continent like Africa, circularity is not something new, but we need to scale up the current, the way we are implementing action. So there is a strong role for the key players, starting with national governments, to set up the right policies and regulations. Because without those policies and regulations, we are not going to get a conducive environment for circularity. Second, the private and financial sector. These players, these financial institutions have a role to play there, not just because it's a business opportunity for them, but they are part of the global community to address the global crisis that were presented today of climate, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And in Africa, we have also identified small but very important players, small businesses, startups. They are making a lot of innovation. There is just a need of small funding, technical assistance to help them grow and commercialize their circular businesses. So we see the traction going on. And finally, in the financial sector, we believe that with the growing commitment that the financial institutions are taking on climate, on circularity, and also many of them are now concerned about their carbon footprint. We see that there is a win-win situation whereby they are going to contribute to global effort to reduce the material consumption that was presented today, but also to make business viable in using circularity as an opportunity to grow their own investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Fayolle, what is the EIB's vision for a circular economy, and how do you see EIB's evolving role in enabling the transition?
Well, we at EIB, we are transforming the institution from being the EU bank to becoming the EU climate bank. And that is a very ambitious target that has, of course, resonance with a circular economy, because circular economy is one of the 6 objectives of the EU taxonomy, and we are dedicated to the EU taxonomy. Also because we are convinced that resource efficiency is something that is absolutely key for our European economies. But I would say that even more in the last year, what we have seen is that circular economy is very much in line with where the European policy is going. And let me give you 2 examples. One is the concept of strategic autonomy of Europe. I mean, it is difficult to say, let's put, and we do, a lot of financing for developing battery, electric battery factories, to develop what we can do to critical raw materials, etc., which is very important for the strategic economy of Europe, without including circular economy in these projects. And that's one goal that we have. And the other one is, of course, we need to do more innovation. And innovation is key for the circular economy. And we try to develop that part of our policy ourselves. So what we do is around €1 billion projects every year in circular economy. And it is increasing in terms of volume of funding that we do on circular economy projects. Over the last 5 years, it was 3.8 billion. The last year was a bit more than 1. So we are doing more, which is good, but it is a small share of our activity in climate and finance, which is bad. Last year, we did 50 billion euros of climate and environment funding, and out of that, 1 was specifically dedicated to circular economy projects, and this is something that we need to continue to work on to develop the projects that can be financed for supporting circular economy.
Thank you. Dr. Dorsouma, talking about startups, you mentioned, and of course my heart's still in startups, so I'm just going to direct a question there. How can financial institutions like the African Development Bank go beyond traditional lending practices to influence policies to get the economics right?
Thanks. As I said earlier, we need to go beyond the traditional lending that the financial institutions are already providing to have, in my view, a comprehensive package that has both policy support, financial support, technological support, as well as promoting innovation. And this is exactly what we have been doing over the last 2 years with an initiative that we are championing. This is the Africa Circular Economy Facility. It's a funding instrument, a multi-donor trust fund that we created together with our strategic partners. Let me name them, the government of Finland and the Nordic Development Fund, to mainstream circular economy as a development strategy in Africa, looking at circular economy in an integrated way, not in a sectoral way, but in a cross-sectoral way. Because as you know, circularity is a cross-cutting issue that cuts across several other sectors. So first, we have identified in Africa that there is a strong demand from businesses on circular economy. And for that reason, we have established a program called Afri Circular Innovators Program. And we have started with 30 SMEs and startups to support them to grow their businesses and commercialize them. And we see those businesses in various sectors. Currently, we have identified 5 of them, which we call the 5 big bets. The first one is on plastics and packaging. The second one is on electronics and mining. The third one is on textile industry. The fourth one is on built environment. And last but not least, the 5th one is on food systems. So we see a lot of opportunities there where startups are already developing innovations. We need just to scale them up. And with financing, technical assistance, and innovation, we'll be able to get there.
Minister Heijnen.
Yeah.
The Netherlands has set a bold target to be fully circular by 2050. Many nations look towards the Netherlands because it's leading in some categories. Can you share a success story of how the Netherlands has changed the rules of the game through policy?
Yes, of course, maybe also to tap into what you were just saying, because in the Netherlands we already have quite a lot of startups, a lot of innovation. And we are now talking to a lot of companies who want to go into the scale-up phase. And that's where they also run into quite a lot of challenges. Policy-wise, that's on the one hand one of the issues. And on the other hand, it's also about financing, because our systems are still very much focused on how we can do it in a linear way. And talking to the planning agencies in the Netherlands, talking to banks, looking at our own policies, it's still very much focused on the linear system. And I think that what we need to do is to break those boundaries. And that's also one of the reasons why I sat together with the Dutch investment bank to start a partnership to, on the one hand, look at how we can change policies, on the one hand, and break barriers there, and on the other hand, how we can make sure to break financial barriers again. Because if companies have access to financing, then they can really make that growth happen. And that is also really, really important for us now. If you look at what we did in the Netherlands, we now have the extended producer responsibility in certain fields. It's in a wide range of products, so it's from car tires to textiles, and it changes the rules of the game by putting the responsibility for handling the waste of the products with the producers. And we are considering further groups to also be allowed into the European producer extended producer responsibility range. And it's a very important thing. The second very concrete thing that we are going to propose, I'm going to do it in exactly 3 days from now, is concerning circular plastics. I will put forward a proposal for a national circular plastic obligation in our Council of Ministers. So that's really exciting. And by introducing this mandatory percentage of circular plastics, including both recycled materials and bio-based polymers, we are truly changing the rules of the game in the chemical industry. But here also, it is very important for our companies in the Netherlands to have a level playing field. So I'm also talking to other countries in Europe, but also to the European Commission to make sure that rules are set on a European level, so to make sure that we as Europe at least have the same
Rules of the game.
Rules of the game. And of course, then it will probably also help other continents, if they want to deliver products to Europe, to also live up to these rules of the game. So having a level playing field is really crucial for circular companies.
For sure, for sure. And again, we go across borders and across sectors. I think Dr. Dorsouma, despite the fact that circular practices are widely practiced across the continent, many African countries still face barriers. You mentioned extending towards different financial products. Are there metrics available to be able to assess these potential investments?
Thanks. You mentioned, I think, a very critical issue, the barriers to mainstream circularity in the Africa's development agenda, and those barriers are real, and they are hampering the uptake of circular economy in the continent. Maybe let me mention a couple of them. One is the perceived risk of investment in Africa, which is perceived because when you look at that issue into detail, the risk is not as being amplified globally. But then there is also the cost of borrowing, which is high in the continent. But when it comes to circularity, there are issues around the lack of expertise also on this concept, the limited governance frameworks, the institutional frameworks that are not conducive enough for that, And we also identified the issue around financing. So there is a way around that. I think governments are trying, but they need significant support. That's why one of the key entry points for us under the Africa Circular Economy Facility was to help governments identify circularity within their existing development strategies and within their existing policies and regulations. We have started to support some of them. I think the demand is huge. Some are asking to develop their national circular economy roadmaps to actually mainstream circularity into the development agenda. Some are asking for specific policy support to update some policies in order to make them conducive for circularity. But also we see a lot of demand on the climate agenda as well, because countries have made significant commitments under the Paris Agreement. MDBs are also moving towards Paris alignment, and circularity is part of that. And countries are updating their nationally determined contribution by 2030. And this is also an opportunity countries are seeing to mainstream circularity into those new climate action plans. So we see that barriers are there, but countries are really committed to do their best. What they need is support from us as international organizations, but also the global community. And when I say support, it's not just about financing, as I said earlier. It has to do with several other aspects related to policy, capacity, innovation, etc.
And talking about support, Vice President Fayolle, the EIB currently holds the Secretariat for the MDB Working Group on Circular Economy, which was formalized last year at WCEF2023. What progress has been made since?
So you're right that we hold the Secretariat of an informal group, a group of multilateral development banks. Strangely enough, it did not exist until last year, and it was created on the margins of the summit in Helsinki. It includes, of course, our colleagues from the African Development Bank, the World Bank, IDB, the Asian Development Bank, and EBRD. And together, we've decided to try to work on what would be a shared vision on circular economy. And it sounds maybe to you quite obvious. It is not. We don't necessarily have the same definition, the same way of the same clients, the same way at looking at circular economy. And that's what we have worked since last year to what we are today, which is the launch of the shared vision, which is, in a few words, a commitment of multilateral development banks to circular economy. And now we need to put in place this work. We hope that by the time of the COP29, we will be able to present much more precisely what is in the vision of multilateral development banks. The 4 directions we are working on, the first one is how to strengthen our internal capabilities in terms of lending, in terms of advising. The second one is working on metrics, methodologies. The third one is how do we get in the direction of streamlining circular economy? And the last one is how do we develop exchanges with all stakeholders, with representatives from the private sector, from the civil society, from governments, so that we can put in place a vision that is as much as possible in line with where the needs of circular economy are.
And I think this is really crucial, and it's great that the development banks are taking such, and the investment banks are taking such a lead in this. And we also have to acknowledge the fact that I have a lot of discussions in politics taking place at the moment, and I see that a lot of politicians are very ambitious. And they ask of me, make sure that we are having a circular economy in no time. And what I always tell them is we are going through a systemic change. If you really want to move from a linear to a circular system, it's a complete systemic change, and it's going to take a lot of time. I've only been in office for a bit over 2 years, and a lot has even happened since. And I'm really proud of all the people who are in the room and probably are very passionate about this topic, about all the work they are doing, but we are getting there. One of my colleagues who is responsible for climate change issues is having a review done of his policy. And I was talking to the people who are doing the review, and they were saying, actually, the circular economy is the solution to our entire climate challenge. And maybe it's a no-brainer for some people who are in this room, but the fact that this is getting into the consciousness of people is so crucial. So I think that we are all pioneers, we are front runners, we will bump our heads at certain points as well. So that's why it's so important to learn from each other. But this is the way to go. If you look at the way the Western world is dealing with their natural resources, we are using up way too many natural resources to keep up the production processes as we have them into place now. It's almost thanks to certain parts of the world who are still not using up that many natural resources that we can still live up to our standards. So I think that we are all obliged to make sure that we, as governments, as banks who are supposed to think a bit more long-term, instead of having these short-term cycles where you have to focus a lot on having the biggest financial gains in the short term, we really have to make sure, what I always say is, if you really want to invest in solid companies for the future, you have to invest in circular business models, because linear models will just simply run out of resources to keep on producing the way they are.
Very fair. So one of the things that has been in the news quite often is the farmer protests in the Netherlands. Yes. And in Europe. It shows the delicate balance between environmental and social goals. Do you have a view on how circular economy solutions, because you mentioned circular economy is a solution to many of the problems, could offer a reliable compass to navigate such challenges?
Yep. I mean, I think that if you look at the circular economy is not a new concept. It's only been maybe 50 to 100 years that we are living in a very linear economy. All our ancestors were used to live in a circular economy, as Mr. Potočnik also said beforehand. It's not that difficult if you come to think about it. Farmers actually are very used to living in tune with nature, and we have to help them to also go back to the way that they used to produce. We are used to mass production now a bit more, and we have to find ways to put it in tune with nature. That's one thing. On the other hand, we also really need farmers. You were mentioning that construction is one of the topics that you are dealing with when it comes to the circular approach in the African countries. We will need circular construction methods in order to live up to our building ambitions. So what I did, of course, circular economy is my portfolio, but I noticed in the Netherlands we have to build 1 million houses. And we also have a nitrogen issue. And my colleague from the building department, the housing department, ran into huge issues because he cannot build, there's a nitrogen issue, and at a certain point I told him, you should look into building in a circular way. It will solve a lot of your solutions. And he completely turned around and he said, we have to do it in this way, otherwise we cannot meet our ambitions. So that's when we put him together with the Minister of Agriculture, and we are now looking into ways to stimulate circular building, and we will need the agricultural sector for that. So every crisis also offers a lot of opportunities, and farmers are known for being smart thinkers, so they are completely tagging along and also are thinking along in helping us change other issues that we have to deal with for the near future.
Wonderful. So in our final minutes, may I ask each of you to maybe give a final message to the audience here, but also online. We have a great audience looking towards implementing circular solutions themselves. They might be critical thinkers as well. Vice President Fayolle, may I ask you to go first?
Well, the message to the audience is keep faith and keep pushing. I think it is very important that we are lucid in seeing the situation as it is. There are more projects related to circular economy these days. There are more partnerships, which is very important. We are, for example, implementing a partnership to increase volume of lending with the big development national promotional banks in Europe. We are developing with the European Commission an ambitious advisory center, which is called the C3, Circular City Center, for urban development and how cities can put more circular economy projects in their policies in Europe, which is essential. So there are things that are moving. That's why I say keep faith, but keep push, because there are not only tailwinds, and we need the support of all in the room and all outside the room to make sure that we continue increase the lending on circular economy projects.
Thank you. Dr. Dorsouma?
Thanks. I think my last message here is on the fact that despite being a global issue, circular economy has to suit the specific circumstances and priorities of different countries and continents. And for Africa, I'm glad to say that we have the Africa Circular Economy Alliance, a government-led platform that drives, the agenda together with the African Union Circular Economy Action Plan. So with this, we are able to define our own narrative of circular economy beyond being a global issue. My last point is on collaboration. We need to foster collaboration, of course, under the shared vision. And the MDBs have already been doing that for many years on climate, and we are glad to be doing the same thing here on circular economy. So collaboration is very important. Finally, I think that we need to create an ecosystem where circularity becomes the norm, not the exception. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Heijnen, final words.
Make sure to exchange as much knowledge as you can, share your knowledge, and make sure that we make this a fair transition for everyone, a just transition, take everyone along. It's also very important because we need it for public support. We need the public support in order to really make the change. So I think it's always important to keep in mind what our policies, what everything we do, how it impacts people, and how we can make sure to keep the public support going as well, because this is going to be very crucial in the upcoming years.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Please thank the panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivonne, and thanks to the panel. What we'd like to do now is, and I know we're a little bit behind, but before we let you go, we'd like to show you a message from Virginijus Sinkevičius, the EU Commissioner for the Environment, Oceans, and Fisheries, who, prior to joining the European Commission, was the Minister of Economy in Lithuania from 2017 to 2019, and who led the Committee of Economy at the Parliament of Lithuania, to which he was elected in October of 2016. Let us take a look at that video.
Circular economy is a policy for our times. We are navigating a geopolitical landscape that is increasingly complex. The challenges are pressing, and the answer must be a holistic approach. With a circular economy, we join up the dots inside Europe and with our partners around the globe, prioritizing sustainability and embracing the green agenda. Despite the shifting landscape, the circular economy concept remains at the heart of the priorities for industry and environment. It encourages us to reimagine our economic model By minimizing waste and maximizing resource efficiency, we mitigate the impact of our consumption and we switch to greener growth. We reduce our carbon footprint and we increase our economic resilience, building a sustainable foundation for generations to come. Europe has been promoting these policies for more than a decade now, and we do have progress to report. We have now measures in place for promoting eco-design, supporting sustainable supply chains, and facilitating the transition for plastics, textiles, batteries, buildings and cars. A new report from the European Environment Agency encourages us to move further. It shows that EU leadership did make the difference by generating a robust vision and solid policy ambitions. These ambitions are underpinned by actions, now to be implemented at national and local levels. And the effects are beginning to be felt. We are starting to see a modest decoupling of EU resource consumption from economic growth. Our total consumption of materials is down while EU GDP continues to grow. That's good news, of course, but the real work is only beginning. The stakes are high and challenges are formidable. And as we look at the years to come, we need to redouble our efforts. We need to step up the transition to a circular economy and champion sustainability in all areas of our lives. Partnerships will be key inside Europe and with global partners. And by working together, we can build a greener, more prosperous future for all. Circular economy must remain front and center. It's the bedrock we need for a stable future. Thank you, and best wishes for the day.
Always feels a little funny to applaud for a video because he obviously can't hear us. If you are participating in a workshop, the first thing I want to say is maybe head there right away. The workshops are maybe this much harder to find than you're expecting. And so it's worth taking an extra minute to go. And there will be lunch for you there. Don't worry that you're missing lunch. We've got you covered at those workshops. A friendly reminder to everybody, I said it before, I'll say it again, to download the app if you haven't done it yet. Who knows what you've missed already in the app. So download the app already. The organizers ask you to please pay attention to arrive a little bit early if you can to each session to enable a smooth and sharp start. And let's face it, walking in late is distracting to everybody in the room. Well, now that the forum is officially open, it is indeed time for lunch. Sitra invites you to enjoy a locally produced and fully vegan meal downstairs next to the expo area. And you'll find that easy. It's not like the workshops, which we've hidden from you. For those watching on the live stream, don't close the window quite yet. We have a little surprise for you. Keep that window open, live stream. Enjoy day one of the forum.
Oh, hey there. That was really something, wasn't it? I'm Tobias from Sitra, and I'm actually here to talk about the Cards of Hope. Cards of Hope is a game for imagining preferred futures. It invites you to talk about the future, what could happen, what is preferred, and for whom. The game is simple. You pull cards at random, and those cards work as a kind of recipe for the future that you're trying to imagine. There are 4 different types of cards. Theme cards determine the subject of the future vision. These are inspired by the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm sure a lot of you watching will recognize. Situation cards determine where the vision takes place. Time cards determine when the vision takes place. The 4th and last type of card is super important, perspective cards. Perspective cards determine from whose perspective the vision is viewed. It's up to you to specify a given perspective. For instance, the perspective of leader could be a prime minister, shop manager, or a scout troop leader. In addition, you can use joker cards when the deck is missing an important element of a preferred future. Cards of Hope can be played by oneself, but the real magic happens when you play with a bunch of people. And that brings us to how the game is played. First, choose a listener from your group. The rest of the players will be imaginers of the future. The listener pulls 1 theme card, 1 situation card, and 1 time card, and places them so that all the imaginers can see. The imaginers then get 1 perspective card each. The card tells them from whose perspective the preferred future is imagined from. Now comes the hard but fun part. Imaginers are given a few minutes to imagine a preferred future based on the cards that have been dealt, from the perspective that they've been given. Once the time is up, imaginers take turns sharing the vision they've come up with. After hearing everyone's vision, the listener chooses the best one, according to their own criteria, whether that be most touching, most credible, most funny, or whatever criteria they prefer. For the next round, choose a new listener and repeat. If you're feeling competitive, award the winner of each round with a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of your game wins. More important than winning, though, is listening to each other's visions and taking time to discuss between rounds.
What was preferable? How?
How is the world in which the vision takes place different from ours?
And how did we get there?
And what stays the same?
What challenged our thoughts and assumptions? And that's it. Pretty simple, isn't it? Cards of Hope is available for everyone to play at sitra.fi/cardsofhope. Keep an open mind and make room for playful discovery. A better future is within our grasp, but it helps if we can imagine one first.